Parenting is not only about prepping kids for the real world, but the online world as well. And with that in mind, does your family need a social media contract? Welcome back to Studio 5. I'm Amy Iverson and joined by author Anna McFarlane, who has a passion for providing parents with smart technology tools. And she recently published a comprehensive social media guide for families. Thank you. Yeah. So needed. And a lot of women seem to be craving strategies to help us in this. I get asked about this more than anything. How do we get a handle on this sort of thing? Obviously, you too.
Yeah, well, it's because we're using social media more than ever. We're using Pinterest as our new Google search. We're using Instagram, Facebook, Twitter as the place to get news, place to shop, place to get community, place for inspiration. And we want to figure out how to get a handle on it and a hold on it, and also help our kids model similar behaviors.
And so overall, you're saying a social media contract is a good way to go.
Yeah, I think it helps us be accountable to each other and to ourselves, and so we really know what the expectation is and how to move forward.
So I recommend this to every family. I say the second you're letting your child get on a device, get a contract. So walk us through kind of how we do it and the principles that we need to include.
Yeah, I think it's important that everyone's voice is heard on the contract. A lot of times we think, oh, I have this great idea, I'm going to tell my kids, and then they feel that those rules are being put on them and that they're not part of the rules. So make sure that there's a conversation, that they feel like they are part of the communication, the conversation, and making the guidelines with you, and they might give you insights that you didn't think of earlier and you wouldn't have known about. Also be very specific. You know, it's easy just to kind of be broad and general, but we have to be specific so we know the expectations.
Now, when you have this kind of sit-down conversation, do you recommend doing it as one big family or one-on-one with each kid?
I suggest the family, but of course we have families, you know, all age groups. We have one big one for the family for the internet use and device use, and then we have one for our teens as soon as you're on social media. So I think it kind of depends on the way your family looks.
Maybe the littles are only there for part of the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we talk about getting specific, what are those things that we need to make sure we touch on?
There are tons of things, but like specifically age, how old will you be before certain apps, which apps are we on, which apps are we not on? How much time are we spending on our devices? iOS Update has a new really cool tool that we can track and monitor our own and our children's usage online. What else?
Maybe just etiquette, like you don't give out personal information.
Yeah, well, just how we treat people. We know how to treat people in person, but we treat people online a little differently, and it's important to talk to our kids about how to have social etiquette online. And also the privacy. What do we share with people? It's not just having a private account, but what are we okay sharing? What should we not share? And then again, consequences.
That might be the most important one, that they know what's going to happen if they don't follow.
Right, otherwise we're giving all these rules and then they don't follow them and we say, no dessert, you know, like I don't know what it is. And if you know what the consequence is, then you're fully prepared to get it.
So you set this age, you say, okay, you can't go on social media until this age. Legally, it's 13, everybody. Just
Papa.
So you set that rule, and then you have to build awareness for them of the long reach. We see those photos of people going, I'm trying to show my students how far this picture will go. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, long reach, but also the fact that it can last 7 years. Third-party ISPs have the ability to hold onto your information for at least 7 years, each one. And those types of things are really overwhelming for people, but it's the whole Maya Angelou, if you know better, you do better. And if you know about your online persona and why you're being advertised in a certain way, and you know about third-party ISPs, and even my kids knowing it, they do better. They understand that what they think is fun in their direct message actually still attaches to them. And what they're sharing with their friends, even on a private account, still attaches to them. And that gives them kind of more strength, more ability to make better choices.
And I think even before social media, maybe, I mean, these same rules apply for gaming, so this applies to younger kids as well.
A lot of people will say, well, my son doesn't care about social media, but their son cares about being on games, and games have the same thing. Their persona is being built, and their use is being followed and tracked.
Okay, now what about talking about who owns this phone? Is that something you need to declare right away?
It's something kind of random, but I always like to bring it up because we think our kids know these things, but you give a kid a phone, they say, this is my phone, and they don't realize that when you take it away, you're not actually taking away their device. So I always say it's like your bedroom. Your kid's bedroom. Yes, it's your bedroom, but I can walk in if I need to. You can't knock down walls and paint things. You have to ask permission first before you
I
do
know.
it.
So I've used this with phones and cars. The phone I'm letting you use,
Yes.
or the car I'm letting you use. So
Yeah.
they just don't think it's theirs.
No, totally.
Okay, how often do we need to kind of have follow-up conversations with our kids, would you say?
Yeah, it's not contract and done. You're not done. Like I say weekly, but if you're doing it weekly, just having little conversations, they turn into daily. And then when your kids have questions and they have concerns, the conversation is continuous. So they are willing to ask you and bring things up because it doesn't feel like, oh, this is awkward. I don't know how to talk to them since we haven't talked since the contract. It's just things like the new iOS update and like the Bitmoji.
Yeah.
You know, just those are the conversations. They're not really big, heavy conversations, just awareness and keep talking about social.
Well, I did just have to have the conversation with my kids because we got the iOS update that you can limit, and I just said, hey, just so you know, your social media is all turning off at midnight, you know, and it was a conversation we had to have. They didn't love it, I have to say. Okay, and finally with this contract, how formal do we make this? Do we make them sign it, date it, all that?
I think signing it is a way to really commit to it. Like I sign the contract with our kids too, so that I'm responsible as well. And it was really hard for me to sign it because I thought, well, now they know that I'm in this too. But I think there's a physicality to it that we say we're all agreeing when you put your name on it.
All right, and there are some things that we as parents should say we're going to do too.
Yeah.
You walk through all of this in your book. Where can we find it?
Yes, so there are two. There's one for younger kids, but the one for social as well. And they're on Family Social Guide. And I did have a Studio 5. Put Studio 5 in, you get $10 off each one.
A little discount.
Yeah, you can try that out. And I'm also talk about it a lot on Instagram at Anna is the worst.
All right. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
I don't think you're the worst.
It's fine.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.